I never thought I'd be the one walking into a five-star restaurant in Manhattan, head held high, not as somebody's accessory, but as the woman running the show. 3 years ago, if you had told me this moment would come, I would have laughed or maybe cried, because back then I was the wife of one of the richest men in the country. My name is Camille Ross, and this is the night everything turned upside down. 3 years ago, I was married to Ethan Clark, the tech billionaire who loved reminding the world of how brilliant he was. And me, I was just the woman at his side, smiling for the cameras, waving at charity events, clapping when he closed another deal. People thought I had the dream life, but behind closed doors, it was suffocating. Every time I mentioned wanting to start my own consulting business, Ethan would smirk, tilt his glass of scotch, and say, "Camille, why bother? You already have everything you could ever want." The truth was, he wasn't asking. He was telling me my role: stay pretty, stay quiet, stay small. The worst came during our divorce. By then, Ethan had already moved on with his assistant. Of course, he did cliché, as ever. In mediation, when I stood up for myself, he leaned across the table with that smug grin and said, "You'll never amount to anything without me. You don't have what it takes." Those words sliced through me deeper than any legal battle. They haunted me at night, echoing in the silence. But here's the thing, sometimes the words meant to break you end up becoming the very fuel that builds you back up. I took the settlement money he thought would shut me up, and I rebuilt my life brick by brick. Not with another wardrobe or fancy vacation, but with a vision. I launched a strategic communications firm specializing in cleaning up public disasters for high-profile clients. Turns out when your divorce is splashed all over business magazines, you pick up a few lessons about handling humiliation. The first year was brutal. I cried into takeout containers, doubted myself, even replayed Ethan's voice in my head. But slowly, one client turned into 2, then 5, then 12. By the third year, I had a team of 30, and my name started carrying weight in rooms where Ethan thought I'd never step foot without him. And then came the biggest moment dinner with Thomas Reynolds, the media mogul, who basically shapes half the country's headlines. He owned television networks, streaming platforms, newspapers, you name it. If he sneezed, the market moved. That night we were at La Mirabelle, the kind of place with chandeliers that look like they cost more than your car. Over scallops and a glass of Merlot, Thomas leaned in and said, "The way you handled Senator Brooks's scandal last month, genius. You didn't just save him, you turned him into a hero. That's why I want to bring you on for my empire." I swear my heart was pounding not from nerves, but from pride. This was it, the moment everything I had worked for was paying off. And then it happened. You ever feel the air shift before you even see who walked in, like the hairs on the back of your neck stand up? I looked up and there he was, Ethan Clark, walking in like he owned the place, his hand glued to the back of a woman half his age. She was stunning, of course. Perfect blonde hair, diamonds that screamed new money, and a nervous smile that didn't quite fit. They were seated across the room, and for a second, it felt like the universe was laughing at me. Time didn't slow down like in movies. It sped up. My mind raced. Do I shrink? Do I hide? Or do I stand tall as the woman I've become? I chose the third. I straightened my back, laughed at something Thomas said, and kept my eyes on the deal in front of me. But I could feel Ethan's stare burning holes into the table. Every time Thomas raised his glass to me, every time we agreed on another clause, I knew Ethan was watching. When his new wife excused herself to the restroom, Ethan pounced. He strutted over with that confident stride I once fell for. "Well, this is unexpected," he said, flashing a smile that used to disarm me. "Hello, beautiful." The audacity almost made me laugh. Instead, I offered a polite smile. "Ethan, how are you?" "I'm well, very well," he said, but his eyes betrayed him as they flicked to Thomas. Recognition hit, and he stammered, Thomas Reynolds Wright. Impressive empire you've built. Thomas, ever the gentleman, stood to shake his hand. Yes, Ethan Clark. I know who you are. Your wife speaks very highly of you. The word wife lingered in the air like perfume. For a split second, Ethan's eyes darted between me and the empty seat his new bride left behind. Old habits die hard. I leaned in my voice, calm, clear. Actually, Ethan is my ex-husband. Thomas and I are business partners. Business partners, he repeated the words, tumbling out. What kind of business? This was the moment I had dreamed of in those dark early months. I met his gaze. I run a strategic communications firm. We handle crisis management for high-profile clients. Thomas and I are finalizing a partnership that'll put us at the helm of his entire media network. His face flickered through confusion, shock, then something dangerously close to regret. Before he could recover, Thomas chimed in, "Your ex-wife is one of the sharpest minds I've ever worked with." The Senator Brooks turnaround. That was her brilliance. This partnership will be revolutionary. I watched Ethan swallow his pride, his jaw tightening as he forced out, "That's incredible. Congratulations." "Thank you," I said simply. He lingered another beat, then muttered, "You look amazing," before retreating to his table. Back at his seat, I saw his new wife questioning him, her eyes darting toward me, her voice sharp, while he tried to wave it off. And let me tell you, that felt better than any champagne toast. When Ethan was out of earshot, Thomas leaned in and said, "That was handled with remarkable grace. Be honest. Does it feel good?" Proving him wrong so spectacularly, I swirled my wine, thought about it, and said, "It feels like closure." For so long, his voice lived in my head, telling me I couldn't build anything. Tonight proved him wrong. "Not just wrong," Thomas said with a grin. "You've built something extraordinary, and this is just the beginning." The contract was signed over dessert. As we left the restaurant, I glanced back through the window. Ethan and his wife were locked in a tense exchange, her arms folded, his shoulders hunched. For the first time, I didn't feel anger. I felt pity. He had traded something real for something that only looked perfect on the surface. Driving away, I realized his opinion didn't matter anymore. The validation I was chasing all along wasn't about showing him, it was about proving to myself that I was capable of standing on my own. If Ethan had supported me, maybe I would have never discovered my strength. Funny how betrayal can be the very thing that sets you free. Months later, my company exploded with new clients, politicians, celebrities, Fortune 500 giants. We opened a second office in Los Angeles. I heard through friends that Ethan and his new wife threw a lavish Hamptons wedding, but whispers said she kept asking questions about me. That's their story, not mine. My story is about building something that can't be taken away. And sometimes, late at night, I think about that moment in the restaurant. Not because I wanted Ethan's approval, but because it symbolized the exact second I stepped into my own power. The girl who was once invisible had become a woman impossible to ignore. And here's what I've learned. The sweetest victory isn't when your ex regrets losing you. It's when you don't need their validation anymore. When your worth is no longer tied to who left, who stayed, or who doubted you. Now, I'll leave you with this. Have you ever had someone tell you that you weren't enough only for life to prove them dead wrong? Do you believe success is about proving others wrong or about proving something to yourself? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if my story struck a chord, hit that subscribe button. Because trust me, these stories aren't just about me. They're about all of us who've ever been underestimated and learned to rise anyway.